5 centuries ago, the two halves of our world changed forever. Waves of European explorers were astonished to discover a new world across the ocean, and they set upon its shores in ships by the hundreds. At the same time, millions of indigenous people faced the inconceivable arrival of strange men, fanning out over their land with swords and flags. This is the tale of one of the earliest European encounters in North America, which is reshaping our knowledge of this continent's First Nations. To unearth this story, Dr. Rick Pettigrew and his team set off on a journey into the heartland of America. Humans have lived on the Great Plains for more than 13,000 years. The region stretches from today's Canada and Montana south all the way to New Mexico and Texas. Sometime around the year 1500, a farming people we now call the Wichita made their home here on the plains.
Everybody has an idea of, okay, Plains Indians, guys on horseback with big feathered bonnets, straight out of Hollywood.
Indians on the warpath. Red man versus white. Burning, scalping, atrocities, massacres.
Holy thunder! Look at them engines!
While most people today have graduated beyond this crude Hollywood imagery, a certain cinematic mental image of Native Americans still persists, helping to perpetuate their disadvantage, even in modern times.
The image of Native Americans is they live in nature. You know, they're part of the natural world. We have culture. Even up to present day, there are natural history museums that have lions and tigers and bears, and Indians. We have history museums for human history, and Native Americans are over in the Natural History Museum, and we don't think they should be offended by that.
Don Blakesley, an archaeologist at Wichita State University, has come to the town of Lyons, Kansas, to join Steve DeVore with the National Park Service. Together, they will facilitate a workshop that will bring together archaeologists, students, and some of the field's most cutting-edge technology.
Archaeology is, in its most simplest, basic form, the study of the past. And by that I mean it's looking at how people interacted with the environment.
One impressive Wichita landmark is hidden away on a hilltop outside of Lyons. Today, the workshop group heads out to investigate, but getting the equipment to the site is no simple task.
Okay. You're probably pushing.
You might.
Are there,
think so?
Are there rough? There's the drop
There's a drop off on that right side. Where's that?
All right, go ahead and grab it.
Not too fast, though. As long as we take it slow, it should be fine.
Oh, yeah, by the way, don't drop it.
And the cattle pond, you go to the floats and you have to walk through the water.
All right. Got it. Thank you, ladies.
Finally, the team makes it across. Cresting the hill, they come upon, well, perhaps it is a sight best seen from the air. Throughout the 20th century, farmers in this area knew there was a peculiar winding gully set into the tall grass here. It wasn't until 1982 that an archaeologist, Dr. Clark Malum, examined its contours more closely and realized that the altered terrain bore the familiar shape of a serpent eating an oval object, an image known to many from the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio.
The whole figure, as we follow along, you'll see it's short grass inside, mixed height grasses outside. A apparently because the sod was removed to create the figure and took the topsoil. From over here to the northwest, all the way to northeast and beyond this pond down here, there is a string of sites that I believe represent a single large community.
Wichita-related people have occupied a really vast territory, you know, for centuries. This particular area here, it kind of represents the pinnacle of Wichita civilization, where here there were tens of thousands of Wichitas in, you know, 1540, 1600, 300 years later, 1900, there were 300 of us. That fact alone, you know, tells you a lot of devastating things happened to our people.
Sometimes when you go out and you're walking out in the open space, you imagine your people living out here, living out in grass houses and the structures that they lived in and stuff, and you just wonder what they felt, what they went through. Sometimes you just stand out there in the open space and just imagine what they might have went through.
In a bit of dark irony, the same European explorers who brought about the decimation of the Wichita and their neighbors are now some of our best sources for understanding and recording those indigenous cultures. At the center of this expedition are two Spanish conquistadors. The story of the first begins in 1540. Francisco Vázquez de Coronado, the governor of the new Spanish province of Nueva Galicia, takes 1,500 men on a quest toward the interior of the continent in search of 7 fabled cities of gold. He has heard of a wealthy land far to the east where the chief drinks from golden cups. They call this land Quivira. After months of travel, Coronado has found no gold, but he and his men have made it as far north as central Kansas. On July 6, 1541, Coronado makes contact with the Wichita, calling them Quiviran. Today, fragments of the Spanish presence in Kansas still lurk in field sites like this. On the third day of the workshop, Dr. Blakesley's team uncovers one.
Okay, I got something for you.
Let's see what you have. Well, look at that.
Yeah.
This tiny scrap of metal is a fragment of Spanish chainmail. Dr. Blakesley shares it with Dr. Linda Scott Cummings, who will clean it and then take it into her one-of-a-kind lab, a mobile archaeological microforensic laboratory.
A lot of people wonder how on earth we came up with the idea to create a mobile lab. And really, it came from returning from a conference that 3 of us from the lab had attended. And we say, wouldn't it be nice if we could take what we do in the lab out in the field and do it in the field with the archaeologist?
The story of the second conquistador now takes us to the southern edge of the state, where Dr. Blakesley hopes to uncover more evidence of early encounters with the Spanish. The year is 1601. Another Spanish explorer sets out across the Great Plains in search of Quivira.
Juan de Onate was the founder of the Spanish colony of New Mexico.
Onate sets off with a troop of 130 soldiers heading east. They meet an encampment of native people, whom Onate dubs the Escanjaques. These people warn him that a large settlement of their enemy, a group the Spanish called the Riados, lies about 20 miles ahead. Onate carries on, and soon he encounters the Riados, finding them to be united, peaceful, and settled.
There was a friendly encounter with the local folks, but they took some hostages to quiz them about what their enemies had said, and as a response, all of the local people fled. And so the next day they crossed the river and came to an empty town.
As an emissary of the Spanish crown, Onate is careful to record every detail of his journey.
Onate set 4 men to counting houses, and the answer was 2,000 at roughly 10 people per head, a population of 20,000.
20,000 people. In 1601, at the time of the expedition, the founding of Jamestown was still 6 years away. The population of Boston, Philadelphia, and New York, 0. None of these cities existed, yet here was a town of 20,000 humans.
This is the first time that the Spanish had been to this area to meet these kind of people and to see village sites that were that large, to run into something that's 5 miles long anywhere in the United States in that time period was major. I don't know about you, but to me, knowing that there's that many people out there would be a little nerve-wracking.
Indeed. Onate and his team decide to turn around before they reach the end of the Great Settlement. But getting back home is not so simple.
They retreated back the way they came, only to find that the Escanjaques were lying in wait for them in the deserted town and attacked them.
Onate's 130 soldiers are ambushed by a reported 1,500 native warriors. The Escanjaques have hidden themselves in a boulder-filled gully, and now they leap out to release a barrage of arrows, before retreating again and again. In spite of their numbers, the Escanjaques are no match for Onate's muskets and cannons. Onate and his men escape back to New Mexico, never to return to the land of the Wichita. But they don't return empty-handed.
They took with them a couple of captives, 2 young boys and a man that they had captured during the battle. And those folks were taken down to Mexico City, where the Viceroy arranged for a formal set of interviews. And he ended up drawing a map.
This map, called the Miguel Map, is the key to Dr. Blakesley's quest.
He drew in a variety of settlements, some rivers, some trails, and he said the native names. He didn't speak Spanish, so he was speaking his own language. And he labeled the big settlement that the Spanish had visited, and he said the name of it was Etzanoa.
Though many archaeologists dreamed that the Miguel Map could lead them to Etzanoa, for decades it refused to correlate with any known topography. Then, a professor at the University of Oklahoma, Dr. Susan Vahik, had a revelation.
On the map, there are circles that represent settlements connected by lines that represent rivers and roads. So it should have been a simple matter to match the map to existing sites and topography, but that didn't happen at first. Miguel, the Native American who drew the map, depicted his territory accurately, but with east at the top. Then his Spanish interrogators asked for more information. To fit this on the page, he tilted the orientation halfway through. So the Miguel map has 2 orientations. Left is north at the top of the page, but it is south at the bottom of the page. When Susan Vahik reoriented the map, it became easier to match it to the landscape and to the locations of known sites.
With this new shape in hand, Dr. Blakesley realized that the features Miguel described do line up with a known region. And so he and his team head south, to a place where 2 rivers meet, near the border with Oklahoma. This is Arkansas City. And yes, that's how they say it. Arkansas City, or Ark City as it's often called, is a quintessential American town. It's home to some 12,000 people, families, farmers, and friendly folk who tend to know their neighbors.
For Dr. Blakesley, this is a huge dig for him because this is his pinnacle. He's, I found this stuff and I'm tying it together. And so by proving that we can find stuff from here, from his expedition, we can prove that this was the city he found.
It may be the largest Indian archaeological site in the U.S. and Canada. It's a pretty big deal.
Identifying Etzanoa as being at Arkansas City completely revises the archaeological record.
On the first morning, Dr. Blakesley and volunteer coordinator Meredith Mahoney organize a team of local volunteers to perform what's called a pedestrian transect survey.
Walk forward slowly, flag what you see.
By covering the field step by step, participants can identify any concentrations of artifacts on the surface. Whenever a possible target is spotted, a flag is planted. Across the river, Steve and his team prepare to run a magnetometer survey.
Magnetometers are very, very sensitive devices that are kind of like a compass needle. All they're doing is recording the Earth's magnetic field at a particular place.
If Dr. Blakesley is right, and this is actually part of the great settlement of Etzanoa, and if the people of Etzanoa actually build houses here, then we would expect the magnetometers to come up with evidence of that in the images that they generate. Results like that could revolutionize our understanding of what actually happened here 400 years ago.
We know the battle was in the southern part of Etzanoa, which is where we're sitting right now, and that the Indians took cover behind a rock outcropping next to a creek that ran down to the river. Well, the creek sitting right over here in the ravine that has huge rock outcroppings on both sides of it sits right over here on the southern part of my property. And Dr. Blakesley said, I'm virtually certain that's where the battle took place.
Dr. Blakesley's conviction has substantial evidence to support it. In fact, on a visit here 4 weeks earlier, he may have uncovered the first ever artifact from the Onate expedition, although it wasn't Dr. Blakesley who found it.
So we brought metal detectors and started searching and found lots of historic trash. This was a favorite picnic ground, bottle caps, you name it. And finally, I noticed that Adam Ziegler, the grandson of the woman who lives here, he'd been with us the whole time and was avidly interested. And so I said, why don't you take my metal detector?
So my name's Adam Ziegler, and I'm from Lawrence, Kansas. I go to Free State High School. Dr. Blakesley said, you can look around. So I did and found a lot of trash and like pop tabs and nails and stuff. But then there's a sound that I just hadn't heard that sound ever. This is more of a high-pitched, sharp beep. So I knew it was something different. I found it right at the base of this tree. And then I put a circle of rope around it just so that...
So you found it right here?
Yep. This is where it happened.
He got a target. And he pulled up, he says, well, it's a ball. So this is our first, for the whole state of Kansas, the first Onate-related artifact.
It was basically a shotgun load for a cannon. The historical term is canister shot. And that's basically a can or canister that's filled with some sort of small objects that can do devastating damage to personnel.
In a field across the gully from Hap McLeod's property, volunteers and team members fan out, metal detectors in hand, hoping to discover further evidence of the battle with the Escanjaques. As with most surveys, whenever a detector chirps, a flag is planted. Usually, as the flags are placed, they form an indistinct mass of flickering orange. But back at the site of the Walking Transect survey, something remarkable is happening. The volunteers have identified an area of tremendous concentration. Whereas other parts of the field have few artifacts of any kind, here in this circle they find dozens of flakes and chipped bits of colored rock, evidence of stone tools used by the native people. This inexperienced group of local volunteers may well have discovered a key focal point of this prehistoric site. As the week draws to a close, Steve shows Dr. Blakesley some of the early results from the magnetometer surveys.
But you'll notice, and you can see some things, some of this is modern, this 2-track.
But these
those
are,
down in there.
That looks awfully nice, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So a cluster of houses there.
Yeah, it looks like it's got a really high potential for features out there.
Yeah.
While these printouts may not look like much to the casual eye, the dark patches and blotches are extremely unusual, and Dr. Blakesley brims with excitement. The first unofficial results of the magnetometer survey tell us that there were houses here. But then, the metal detection team hits pay dirt.
Rick, come here. You're going to like this. We have 2 more items, the last 2 things we needed to find. A lead ball. It's no longer a ball. It interacted with, it interacted with something really solid and is flattened out. But we were expecting to find lead, and here some is. So this is one.
Okay.
And let me seal it back up so I don't lose it. What we didn't expect to find the first time, but we're ready for the second time. Another iron ball.
Oh, yeah, I recognize that.
And you see, immediately you see the faceting on it.
Oh, sure, that looks just like the other one.
So we have 3 so far, which really pins it down. You can search and you might find 3 lead balls and go, well, that's just 19th century stuff. But there were no other battles fought in this area where anti-personnel cannon loads would have been used. So this is it.
Don, it's just what you were saying.
I can't imagine another explanation.
Other explanations will undoubtedly be debated in the months to come, but for now, the evidence suggests that these iron balls were launched from Spanish cannons more than 400 years ago. The battle happened here.
Sometimes in the sciences you have what's called a paradigm change, where all of a sudden the Earth shifts and you have a different view of things, and that's what's happening here. We got a ton of data, and we will be compiling all of it eventually. It'll take us a little while, but it's going to be a major contribution to the archaeology of the region.
Our youth need to know, at least visit these places and be aware that they're there, and maybe not now, but maybe in 10 years from now, you know, they'll pick up and carry on. I want our kids to have the things that I didn't have. I didn't have that history. I didn't know our people. And so I want them to be able to come to the tribe and you know, and know who they are. I want it to be in our history books. I want them to learn about our people.
You know, for a long time, a lot of Indian people, because of what's happened to them, you know, they've really been disenfranchised in a lot of ways. And after that happens for so long, you know, they don't have as much hope to be able to overcome the things that have happened to them. And I just think, you know, to see that that was once accomplished by our people, you know, there's still that ability, that capability that we have as a people to accomplish some of those things, you know, to be more of a nation as we once were.
Today, the Wichita tribe numbers roughly 2,500 full members. But with each new generation, the challenge of upholding their traditions grows more difficult. For now, Dr. Blakesley and his colleagues must return to work in other parts of the country. There are reports to file and papers to be written, but they will be back to Ark City, and until then, their work here has helped to recapture the lost history of Etzanoa, the great settlement of Quivira, where a Spanish conquistador army once faced off with the great Wichita nation.